prepare to uncover shocking revelations about Poppy Playtime's original ending, a massive Chapter 6 hint, and the CEO's candid response to recent controversies. Poppy Playtime has received numerous updates, including insights from an old developer on how Chapter 5 was initially intended to conclude the game and what that ending would have entailed. We'll also cover the CEO's reaction to the recent Chapter 5 drama, new hints about what we can expect from Chapter 6, and updates on the movie and Project Playtime. It's truly a lot to unpack. First, let's dive into a newly discovered Chapter 5 secret. While playing, you might have noticed strange, seemingly pointless blue hand scanners hidden across the map. They are incredibly difficult to find and, honestly, were a bit confusing during my playthrough, as I initially thought they were part of a puzzle. However, these are actually for an in-game Easter egg. If you collect every single one in a playthrough, you'll be rewarded with Pianosaurus, who appears and dances for a short while. The animation is quite wonky, clearly a whimsical, last-minute addition for fun. Ironically, this one scene is actually longer than his appearance in Chapter 4, meaning he technically gets more screen time here than in his own debut chapter. Quite amusing. Moving on to some Chapter 5 updates. While the game was remarkably free of the extensive bugs that plagued previous releases, the developers have still issued a couple of patches. For instance, the first patch fixed an issue causing game crashes on launch, which was pretty much the only consistent complaint I observed. More recently, a more comprehensive patch addressed soft locks, updated credits, adjusted jump scare volumes, and introduced various other minor bug fixes, all aimed at further stabilizing the game. CG5 also finally released his Wrong Side Out song, inspired by Chapter 5, which I found quite enjoyable. There's even a music video for it. The lyrics seem to be from the prototype's perspective and are genuinely interesting, so give it a listen if you haven't yet. Now, let's delve into the more significant updates. Similar to Chapter 4's release, Isaac, a former Poppy Playtime game developer who literally directed the first 3 chapters, took to Twitter for a Q&A session to discuss the newest release. And Isaac had a lot to say. The first bombshell he dropped concerned whether the original story outline for Chapter 5 was used. For Chapter 4, he stated they mostly stuck to what he left behind after his departure. However, for Chapter 5, he revealed they did not. He said, "The original story ended in Chapter 5, but I'm not sure how long it'll go now." They could still make the old ending happen, but some story changes make it very unlikely. It is sad to know that the old finale is gone, but I don't blame them. So, intriguingly, Chapter 5 was initially planned as the game's conclusion. Isaac later clarified in the thread that when someone hands you a story, it's hard to execute that vision without them. It makes more sense to bring in some new people with their own fresh ideas. Plus, the outline I left behind was brief and needed a lot of fleshing out. Maybe you'll end up liking the new story even more. So, it's possible this new direction could be more fleshed out. However, I must admit, even if it works out, it's a little sad that they won't stick with the original ending, as it implies older chapters were building towards something that no longer exists. This means potential teases and lore clues in those chapters could be retconned. Speaking of which, regarding the prototype, Isaac informed us that Chapter 5's prototype is quite different from the original concept, both in demeanor and appearance. The original was very similar to the Catnap Shrine. It had a jester's head with a body composed of scrap human parts and the remains of toys it wished to make an example of, featuring small toys on its body, along with Mommy Longlegs, Catnap, and Dewey's heads. It also had several grab packs on its back that it could use to chase you. He even showcased some fan art that supposedly matched the original concept more closely. To be honest, I actually like the current prototype's design and don't mind the change, except I wish there were more references to the toys the prototype was attaching to itself, as Isaac originally intended. I think a design somewhere in between the original and current would probably be best. Someone created a great fan render that aligns with what I envision. Though, they probably do need to update that catnap shrine to match the final design more closely. Regarding new characters in the game, Isaac mentioned that the automolds, Chum, and Giblets are brand new, which suggests the entire Turning Toys Wrong Side Out arc was added to the game later. However, he did say that Lily Love Braids had some early concept art where she walked with 2 large braids, which is very interesting. Next, Isaac answered a multitude of fan questions about the game. There were so many that I can't break them all down, but I'll quickly go over the ones I found most interesting. First, I asked if he could reveal the missing slide name from Chapter 2, a long-standing mystery. He replied that he shouldn't, in case they do more with it later, so hopefully, that mystery might still be solved and not retconned. Roz asked if we'll learn who the player is, and Isaac said that while he originally didn't plan to focus on it, over time, despite his initial intentions for them to remain anonymous, he did give them an identity but revealed it to no one. So, we'll see if a true identity ever gets revealed. Interestingly, someone asked if the Ollie phone in Project Playtime was always meant to set up Chapter 3. If you recall, in Project Playtime, we discovered Ollie's existence through a VHS tape sent with the phone, but then mysteriously heard nothing more. Isaac confirmed that yes, it was meant to set up Ollie, and Project Playtime was supposed to have a bunch of these tapes to complete the story, but it never happened. Another user asked if Ollie was always meant to be turned into the prototype, and Isaac actually confirmed this. This user asked if the Doctor was always meant to reappear in this chapter, and Isaac said, no, he wasn't planned to return, and he might have been used a bit differently in Chapter 4, so people might not have missed him so much. Someone asked about the plant experiments in Chapter 5, and Isaac said they were completely new, so he had no information. Someone then asked how the prototype was different in his original story lore-wise. Isaac explained he was meant to be a very, very intelligent character. He spoke with little malice and was far more focused on observation. He added, I think the biggest writing difference is that the old prototype would never speak as though he knew he was the bad guy. That was the one thing he never got. This is quite interesting. This user asked about Poppy Joe, to which Isaac responded, there wasn't supposed to be a Poppy Joe, out of fear of seeming too FNAF-y. This user asked if only the prototype and Huggy were meant to be the antagonists of Chapter 5, and Isaac replied there was at least one other minor antagonist, but he wouldn't say in case they still use it. That would be cool to see return, in my opinion. He later added to his thread, discussing the original plans for the Doctor, most importantly confirming that the Doctor was meant to have been watching us from the start, controlling every camera, every door, and that he was the one who crashed the train in Chapter 2. This is extremely interesting. I had no idea that was him. Overall, there were so many cool reveals in this Q&A. Granted, it did reignite some of the Chapter 5 controversy, as many people expressed a preference for the sound of the old story and wished the developers had trusted Isaac more, especially regarding whether the game should have continued after Chapter 5. Personally, I've enjoyed both the chapters Isaac worked on and the subsequent ones. They are, admittedly, stylistically a bit different. I don't think anyone denies that. I am a fan of the story we currently have. But speaking of the drama, the developers have responded in a way that leaves fans cautiously optimistic. If you're unaware, I'm referring to all the debate surrounding Chapter 5's reception. Some loved it, others hated it, and Mob Entertainment responded to it all. Specifically, CEO Zach addressed it on their Discord server, first stating, lots of discourse online about Chapter 5. Always fun to see what connected with people, what didn't, and what they want for the future of Poppy. This was immediately encouraging to hear. I was very concerned that amidst the drama, especially since many people still liked the game. Zach might become immediately defensive of the franchise. But right from the start, he seemed accepting of these criticisms. He went on, responding to someone complimenting the animation, saying, "Yeah, you hear pretty opposite things on the spectrum. Some say the animation is some of the best they have ever seen in games. Others clown on us." Here, somebody asked Zach if he was happy with how Chapter 5 was received, and he responded, 85% in English is pretty good. That's the goal. He was very positive, referencing the Steam reviews for the game, which were 85% positive. I agree. That's quite good. It's almost the best reviewed chapter, even though I do think there's a lot to address in the future with the franchise. Zach was hopeful about the future, stating, "I, however, will not rest until we reach overwhelmingly positive. This Steam ranking is only given to the best of the best games that have over 500 reviews and 95% positive scores. So, definitely a hard feat to reach, but I love to hear that ambition. And no, this doesn't mean he's actually going to release infinite chapters until he gets the reviews he wants or anything. He's just being ambitious about the game's future, no matter its length." He was also asked if he felt there was anything he would have done differently with the release. And he said that 100%, I'm sure in hindsight we would do some things differently, but that has been true with every release. Hopefully, this suggests he is aware of the game's flaws and is actively working to improve them. He elaborated on the future of the franchise, saying, "Pushing interactive and psychological horror is my #1 priority for the future of the franchise. This is another hopeful sign because, this deep into the game, I really want to see it become as scary as possible." Furthermore, outside of the controversy, Zach also provided several interesting updates on other future projects. When someone asked about Poppy Playtime's abandoned Roblox game, Poppy Playtime Forever, Zach told them that he wasn't done with Roblox, saying, "Don't worry. I have mixed feelings about this because I didn't really like the Roblox games, but they are also handled by third-party studios, so it probably isn't that big of a deal." Then, he dropped an absolute bombshell when discussing Project Playtime, Mob's abandoned multiplayer game, stating, "We would love to revive Project Playtime, guys. We haven't forgotten about it, and we know you guys want us to talk about our plans. It's just that there are a lot of competing priorities. We are working on those plans, but you will have to be patient on that one." Now, this time's news, on the other hand, I would absolutely love. Project Playtime was a very fun game, and while I'm not exactly sure how they'd go about reviving a game that hasn't been updated since 2023, I would still love to see this. They mentioned having many other competing priorities, but I'd personally be cool with seeing some extra time dedicated towards this for a while. Regarding the Poppy Playtime movie, Zach also gave us a mini update, saying, "The Poppy movie is going to be an event film. Hehe. An event film simply means it's intended to be a major release. So Zach is confident here, but it's going to take some time. This is a small but welcome update, and I always appreciate creators taking their time." So, those were Zach's responses to the drama, and it seems like, especially regarding the horror aspect, he wasn't messing around. We might have just gotten a tiny glimpse of what's coming for Chapter 6 Inches, a new LinkedIn job listing recently posted by the developers for a senior game designer. Specifically, they were requesting somebody with deep horror experience to lead the design of tense, atmospheric, and psychologically engaging gameplay systems. This role is ideal for someone who has worked on narrative or survival horror titles similar in tone and craft to Alien, Isolation, Soma, Amnesia, Dead Space, or comparably immersive horror experiences. You will own core gameplay pillars, such as tension pacing, player vulnerability, AI threat behaviors, and systemic scare design. You'll help shape how players feel moment to moment, not just what they do. Assuming this is about Poppy Playtime, which it most likely is, This is immediate proof that they are directly targeting developers with experience in creating more horror-centric video games. This is, in my opinion, the very first step toward addressing the flaws many fans have pointed out. Hopefully, we will learn more about these developments soon.